This is the story of how I took on a challenge, something I've been putting off for a long time. Now you've seen me practice mechanics for 100 hours, you've seen me play 100 games of ones, you've seen me try 30-day challenges, and this time, we take on the 30 days of keyboard and mouse challenge. Or at least that's what I would be saying if this keyboard and mouse challenge didn't make me want to put my head through the wall. No, this is how I spent 2 weeks playing on keyboard and mouse, everything I learned, the advice I can give to those of you who might want to be changing over, and my overall thoughts on keyboard and mouse in general. Spoilers, I hated every second of it. But before we jump into that, please allow me to thank today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Casetify. Now for those of you who don't know, Casetify is the perfect place to pick up your next phone case. And here's why. They have thousands of designs for a bunch of different phones where you can change the color or print to match the case to the phone, plus you can customize your case as well. They are much cheaper than Amazon alternatives, engineered with a 2-layer construction of Chi-Tech material, which means your impact cases are 6.6 foot drop test approved, and your ultra impact cases are approved up to 9.8 feet. Now this Chi-Tech is Casetify's trademark impact absorbing material. It lines the 4 corners of the case, all while keeping the case nice and slim. Plus, they're made with 50% recycled material and shipped to you in 100% compostable packaging printed with eco-friendly ink. And the cases have an antimicrobial coating, which is going to eliminate 99% of bacteria by preventing the growth of microbes and stopping bacteria from sticking in the first place. I'm sure some of you know that Apple is releasing the new iPhone this month, so if you're getting the new iPhone 13, you should definitely get a Casetify case for it, or if not yourself, they make an excellent gift for family and friends. Now, if you do want to get your hands on a top tier case yourself, go to www.casetify.com/Thanovic to get 15% off your order. So, I originally had the idea to do this because everyone thinks that Hankovic and I are the same person. And if you are one of those people, we aren't. We just have similar sounding online names. But because people think we're the same person, a lot of people come into my stream asking about keyboard and mouse, because Hankovic is a keyboard and mouse player. And eventually, I caved in and decided to try 30 days on keyboard and mouse. I would make a fresh account and see what rank I could reach in 30 days. Now, we know this ends 14 days in, but back then I was hopeful. Yo! Alright, we got one. We got our first breezy on keyboard and mouse. Day 1. We breezied on keyboard and mouse. Day 1. Okay. And for those of you who are wondering, I had it all checked out by a member of Psionics, and it's not considered smurfing because I'm learning a different input type, and I'm not staying at a low rank intentionally, as I'm always trying to climb the ranks. So, here's how it went. Day 1, I spent about 6 hours just trying to understand movement. As this was my first real time on keyboard and mouse, I spent about 4 hours in free play just trying to get the basics down. This was things like basic ground movement with the WASD keys, trying to hit the ball straight, learning basic keybinds and general aerial stuff. Now I ended up leaving everything default except I put arrow left and right onto my thumb mouse buttons 1 and 2. This is where I ran into the first problem. You see, with controller, the analog stick gives you a complete range of motion, whereas with keyboard and mouse, you are a little bit limited. Because you can only work with exact straights, either up, down, left, right, or in diagonals, it made things like trying to dribble the ball and make those slight touches pretty difficult for me. So during the first day, it was mostly about understanding how to do things rather than trying to do them. The next day, we hopped into ranked. Now, my placement games were actually alright. I managed to get by without really losing too many games, winning 7 out of the 10 placement matches, and considering it was a completely fresh account, I expected to be placed somewhere around gold, which would have been good because trying to learn brand new controls while playing in gold lobbies meant that I wouldn't have to worry about the games being too fast while I'm learning the basics. And it meant I wouldn't have to worry about aerials too much. So, guess where I got placed? Yep, Diamond 2. So in this moment, I got a little bit worried. I had just around 8 hours on keyboard and mouse and was already going up against Diamond players. I wasn't sure how I was going to keep up or if I'd even be able to compete without spending a fair few hours back in free play again just grinding out some more basic control. But I thought, hey, may as well give it a go and see if we can even keep up. And to my surprise, I did. It was actually a lot easier than I thought. I just kept winning games. Some close games, some by 5 or more goals. And the best part was, I wasn't even getting carried by a teammate. I decided at the start of this that I would completely solo queue the entire time just to keep it clean, and even in these diamond lobbies, I was the one scoring a few goals a game. Now I couldn't aerial, I couldn't power slide properly, I kept forgetting what the jump button was, I couldn't dribble, and I couldn't recover to save my life. I was able to win these games with game sense alone, and that felt kinda sick. I was able to go into each match and just read the gameplay. I would let my teammates do their thing, trying to adjust to help them out, watch my opponents as they moved to attack, and then counter their mistakes. There was no need to go for anything flashy, no need to ball chase. I literally just played calm and capitalized on my opponent's mistakes, because in Diamond, there are a lot of them. By the end of the first day of Ranked, I was Champ 1. And while that's all well and good, remember that even though I got to that rank in a day, that just meant that I had to learn all the things that I couldn't do against Diamonds, but now against Champion players. And that's when it got scary. So I spent a few days with more time in training than in actual games. I wanted to learn to better my aerial control just so I could go up to defend any basic aerials in order to actually help out my team on defense. Every day I was playing a few hours on keyboard and mouse, and every day I was having the same issue that comes from being a grand champion on controller. I had game sense and positioning down, but there were things I wanted and needed to do in game that I couldn't do because my hands just weren't able to do it yet. Times where I would think, okay, I just need to go up here and hit the ball down to the side for my teammate. But then I'd mess up the aerial. Because even though I knew what I wanted to do, I wasn't comfortable doing it, and at the speed that the Champ 1 games were going, I was having a hard time. That being said, one of the real issues here was that the GC mindset meant that I had expected a lot from Champ players. And oh my god, I got tilted from my teammates. Yes, I know, I always say don't blame your teammates, but I have never been in so many games where I've been cut off during a rotation or they have blatantly missed the most open goals. Like, imagine the struggle of knowing what to do and knowing how it'll play out and what's going to come from it and how you can score, but then your hands just not being able to do that thing. And like the one time they do it and everything's going well, you have teammates who literally just miss completely open nets. What? He missed! Like, I'm already working overtime trying to process 100 new things at once, and then all of a sudden I'm getting sideswiped by a teammate who thinks he needs to cut me off and leave our net wide open for no reason at all. And on top of all of that, they are so toxic. I got wowed for missing an open shot against 2 defenders after my teammate cut me off, took my boost, and then went back to defend anyway. Okay, look, sorry, I had to get out there, I was tilted. So, to all of you players below Grand Champ, I am sorry I doubted you in the past, and I pray you have good teammates because, my god, I was ready to throw hands with some of my lads. But soon enough, we made it to Champ 2. Now, sitting at Champ 2, I found out a few things. 1, I had still only played about 10 days, which only came out to around 25 hours-ish, and so muscle memory wasn't the strongest. And 2, everyone else was kind of getting decent at the game. Like consistent area plays, passing, and the occasional player that worked on mechanics pulling out some flip resets. So, how did I, a player who could barely turn and recover, manage to hold his own and stay in this rank? Easy. Literally, nothing changed on my end. I just played smart. I watched the game, took good challenges, and counterattacked when the opponents made mistakes. I had no mechanics at all, and I was winning games in Champ 2. So, let that be a lesson. Mechanics are genuinely not needed in order to climb. It was so apparent that I was so far below everyone else mechanically, and yet I was winning games. And then the last few days came. The days that would be the nail in the coffin for my 30-day challenge and stop me in my tracks 14 days in. In the last few days of the keyboard and mouse challenge, I hit a big wall. And no, it wasn't my games, I was still very comfortable in Champ 2, probably winning and losing an equal amount of games. No, the issue was actually a few things. Number 1, I was still losing my mind at how Champ 2 teammates didn't know basic rotations and would AFK and complain the entire time and blame me, but most importantly, it was still knowing that no matter what happened over the course of the 30 days, it wasn't going to be enough time to completely learn the inputs needed on a new controller type, being keyboard and mouse. Sure, in free play I was fine. I could control my car in the air rolling, going back and forth from goal to goal, I was fine. But in game, under the pressure of having to be precise with each movement and trying to work around opponents at the same time, I felt I was unable to process information fast enough. It was actually hard just knowing what I needed to do and not being able to do it. Like the feeling of not being able to move my hands fast enough or trying to press a certain button but missing every time. All the information was there, but I couldn't relay it to my hands fast enough without having to 100% focus on what my hands were doing. It was wearing me out and having to think about which buttons do what and how I would have to press multiple buttons at a time in order to complete a simple turn, and then even the turn was still not as precise as I wanted it to be. I think I just came to terms with the fact that keyboard and mouse was just making the game not fun for me. It drained me, missing easy shots and having poor recoveries at a level where they would get easily countered. And so, for the sake of not wanting to put my fist through the monitor, and for the sake of my Twitch chat not having to watch some awful gameplay, I would end the challenge and sum up what I had learned. So, over the course of the 2 weeks that I played on the account, I learned that keyboard and mouse can be a lot more precise with the movements. You aren't going to have stick drift, and you can be sure that you're driving in a straight line or flying straight. The use of singular keys to input movements are going to make your movements very sharp and clean. The downside to this, however, is that you don't get every angle like you would with an analog stick, and it takes multiple keys to move in a way that an analog stick can do so effortlessly. I also learned that the lower ranks can be very toxic and say some very mean things, and that's okay. Sometimes I did miss easy shots. I would be upset too. But I also know that I was at this level with 20 hours on keyboard and mouse. And it wasn't as if I'd put a few hundred hours into the game and was sitting here missing open nets like some of my teammates. Sorry, just had to get it out there. God, this tilted me. And the last thing I learned is that I never want to play keyboard and mouse again. Now, for those of you who might be looking to switch over to play keyboard and mouse or want to know which is better, it is completely personal preference. There are some things you can do easier on both. Like I said, you have sharper movements on keyboard and mouse, whereas you have a little more control on controller. But then you look at people like Evampel and Hankovic who both play on keyboard and mouse, and the argument for controller having more control goes completely out the window. So, use whatever you want. If you want to change, try it. It's hard, but with enough patience and training, you'll be fine. It just really takes time. And lastly, my overall thoughts. It was a lot of fun in the beginning, learning a new way to play, but going into it, feeling held back by the lack of motor skills was really frustrating and kind of stopped me wanting to continue. Just because I knew what needed to be done in game, but I couldn't do it. And it was just a kind of feels bad moment. But overall, glad I gave it a go. These 30-day challenges are a lot of fun most of the time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. If there's a different kind of 30-day challenge you guys want to see, please feel free to let me know. I would love to read them all and torture myself for another 30 days. It would be an absolute pleasure. But once again, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all next time.